All right, guys, welcome back to Father and Son Investing. This is actually going to be my second attempt at this. My computer just ruined the first video I just made, so hopefully I'm better at it the second time. We're going to talk about Bloom Energy today. Bloom had a big announcement yesterday. We'll talk about that. We want to talk about what the future is for Bloom, and I want to also share part of an article with you from Seeking Alpha, discussing how Bloom rates in comparison to other energy companies in this green energy arena. Now, before we get to that, I want to put in a plug just for getting the young people in your life investing. This potentially is a great stock for them to invest in now, because it may be multiple times more valuable by the time they get to be my age. Bloom Energy, I made a video about this last summer, and I'll be honest, I kind of missed the boat in terms of the potential of this company and what they do. I saw this more as a way of keeping the power on during natural disasters. But this company really is designed to provide electricity for its customers 24/7, regardless of any natural disasters. If you're going to invest in this company, you need to know what they do, and this slide here is the crux of what this company does. They generate electricity by taking either natural gas or methane, like the kind that's produced by dairy cows, and running that over a special fuel cell that they've developed that has an anode and a cathode that will take that fuel source and convert it into electricity and water. It also does release some carbon dioxide during this process, but the amount of carbon dioxide being produced is about 50% less than other energy sources. They also are able to supply this electricity to their customers at generally a lower rate than the grid electricity price. And just who are their customers? Well, currently they are large corporations or government entities. You can see some of them before you here. Where it says Staples, we're talking Staples Center, the arena in Los Angeles. But AT&T, Sutter Health, FedEx, Honda, Caltech, NASA, Kellogg's, you name it, there's a number of companies there. But they are expanding that. So this article in Bloomberg details how Bloom Energy is bringing this type of fuel cell technology into the residential space and small business space. They have a contract in New York for a 40 megawatts total of electricity. That would be enough to power 30,000 typical homes. They have already deployed a 7.5 megawatt installation on Staten Island, and customers who sign up for this will get their electricity that is cleaner and cheaper than what the utilities typically can provide. How is that possible? Well, we already understand why it's cleaner. It's producing 50% less CO2. It can be cheaper. One of the ways it can be cheaper is just that at least in the United States, the government provides credits for energy that comes from fuel cells. Why would the government be interested in doing that? Those 40 megawatts of power that will eventually be able to be produced there in New York will take 50,000 metric tons of CO2 emissions out of the air every year. That's the equivalent of 11,000 vehicles being taken off the road. That is the present, but here's how the future works. I showed you earlier how that electricity is produced by taking hydrogen or methane gas and passing it over their fuel cell that they've developed, which produces electricity, water, and some carbon dioxide. But that process can essentially be performed in reverse, and what you get out of it is then hydrogen. Why would we want to do that? Well, if the source for that electricity is green energy, such as solar or wind power, and we take that electricity and we pass it through their reverse process of that fuel cell, which they call an electrolyzer, what we get out of that is hydrogen that's being produced without producing any additional CO2. That then makes this whole process become carbon neutral. Now, that hydrogen certainly can be shipped to wherever it's needed, but it could be also used on site. Let me show you an example of that, the big news that came out of Bloom Energy yesterday. Bloom announced yesterday that it successfully deployed its first fuel cell powered solely by hydrogen. This fuel cell in South Korea is only producing 100 kilowatts right now, which is not very much. But the plan is to ramp that up to a megawatt hydrogen-powered energy server installation by 2022. Now, a megawatt is still not very much either. New York City uses 11,000 megawatts a day, just as an example. Bloom doesn't plan to stop there, though. Their current plan for 2025 is to be able to generate a gigawatt using this process. More efficient at doing this. This is an example, shows you the revenue and the gross profits from the years 2018 to 2020. What you need to know is that their revenue from their product was 400 million in 2018 and became 518 million in 2020. The cost of producing that revenue, 281 in 2018 and 332 million in 2020. And you're saying, wait a minute, 332 is more than 281 million. And you would be correct, but remember that their revenue also went up. And so we look at the bottom line and their gross profit, 165 million in 2020 versus 105 million in 2018. And Bloom's strategy is to reduce its cost by 10 to 15% annually, thus driving up their gross profits, creating cash flow. One of the ways they're doing that is by improving their product. In 2008, Bloom 1.0 was available, and it only had a lifespan of about 2.5 years or so. Bloom is working on a contract model with many of these customers. They'll have a 15-year contract, and that includes replacement of these units when they are no longer functional. So if they were replacing every 2.5 years, that would be very expensive. But as they have gotten better and run this up to Bloom 7.5, we're now looking at a product that lasts about 6 years and is more efficient such that it doesn't require as much maintenance. So if we were to take the cost of the Bloom 1.0 and assign that a value of 100, by the time we get out to Bloom 5.0, we're looking at the cost of that unit being at 39% or 14% of that original, more inferior product. And that then translates into gross profit. We can see that in 2011, working off of a more inferior product, their gross product is in the negative. And by the time we get out to a better product here, we're looking at 1.7 times the cumulative gross profit. Now, this Seeking Alpha article goes into a lot of detail and covers some of the things I've already mentioned. But then he discusses why he is bullish on Bloom. And we compare those to other companies such as Plug Power and Fuel Cell and Ballard Power. If we just look at the table that the author created, we see that Bloom has the most revenue, significantly the most revenue. Now, Plug is listed there in the negative because many of you are aware that Plug Power had some accounting problems that they announced recently. Those accounting problems haven't been resolved yet, so at the moment, Plug's revenue is listed as in the negative. If we look at revenue growth, Bloom is doing well, 24.5% quarter over quarter. And here's really the big one, the gross profit margin, 20.87%. Compare that to all of their competitors, and Bloom beats them. The author of this Seeking Alpha article talks about the days sale outstanding. I'm not going to go into this a lot, but just know that Bloom Energy is doing very well when it comes to their competitors. Now, here's the thing I really want to show you from this article as we finish up. Bloom Energy in comparison to other companies in this arena when it comes to their valuation. So there are lots of ways to measure valuation, but one way to do it is by the enterprise value divided by the revenue. We take the total value of the company and divide it by the amount of revenue that they're generating. And generally, if that number is low, that may indicate that the company is undervalued. We're going to compare that here to 4 competitors: Plug Power, Fuel Cell, Gevo, and Ballard Power. Bloom Energy, this purple line here, comes in at 5.8. Its next closest competitor is almost 47. Bloom Energy, then, is way undervalued compared to these other companies doing similar business. Now, we want to be fair to these competitors and talk about some of the risk of investing in Bloom Energy, and that comes in its debt-to-asset ratio. If that's important to you, then Bloom Energy is worse than all of them except for Fuel Cell Energy. Is this the right time to be buying Bloom Energy? If we turn to tip ranks, we see that they have 8 analysts that they have following Bloom Energy. Of those 8 analysts, the 12-month price prediction is a low of 27, so roughly where it's at now, all the way up to a high of 41. I have even seen estimates higher than that from some analysts. Overall, I think that this is a stock that is a winner. Certainly can be a stock for a young person to get in on now and be able to see some success. That's really important, to get a little win. I see the price, heading over 30 sometime soon, and hopefully back to that $41 range. Keep in mind that I am not a licensed financial advisor, so certainly do your own investigation of this company. But again, I bought some more of it yesterday. I'm going to buy some more of it today as well, and take a look at it. I think that there are a lot of pluses here. What are the pluses? One, I showed you that it's very undervalued compared to other companies in this same category. Two, we talked about the success that they just had installing their hydrogen-powered plant there in South Korea. That's only going to grow. Three, we've talked about how they're taking their fuel cell technology and putting it into residential areas now. That's only going to grow. They're looking to get into all 50 states by 2025. So they have a lot of growth ahead of them, and they're getting better and more efficient at doing it. Their cost of revenue is going down, and thus their profits are going up. All good reasons to invest in a company, and they don't have accounting problems, at least not at the moment. That's it for today, at least for this video. I got another one coming out about Clover right after this. Until next time, enjoy your investing.